Hello everybody and welcome to another video. This is kind of an informal video. I kind of had a thought on my mind that I really wanted to talk to you guys about. It's been on my mind for 2 days now, and today I just had the feeling that I really needed to make a video on this, and so here we are. I wanted to talk about the idea of seeing with your heart instead of seeing with your eyes. So the problem with seeing with your eyes is that we make a lot of decisions, we get a lot of judgments, we get a lot of assumptions, ideas by just looking at something. And so example, if you're looking at a person and that person may have, I don't know, tattered clothing, not name brand, you're driving a used car, blah, blah, blah. You might assume that person doesn't have a lot of money. And that may be true, that may be not. But the point is, you're making a decision with your eyes without actually knowing the full truth. They might just be very frugal and saving a ton of money. They may be a millionaire. You don't know. It's just you made that decision with your eyes instead of looking at the person with your heart, with a loving perspective towards that person. You are judging them for the fact that they're not wearing new clothing or clothing that doesn't have tatters in it. Another example would be, you are driving on the highway and you see a car drive up really fast by you. And you're just assuming, wow, they're a terrible driver. You're looking at it through your eyes, and who knows, maybe you had to move out of the way really quick before they caught up with you. You're seeing with your eyes. If you were seeing with your heart, you might be like, oh, they might be an emergency, they might be going to the hospital, maybe seeing someone at the hospital that's dying, or they need to get to the hospital because they have an emergency. You never know. And so I've just been thinking about that for myself. So just how you have the idea of what I mean by seeing with your heart instead of seeing with your eyes. I've been challenged the past couple days to really look at myself and be like, wow, I do make a lot of judgments. I do make a lot of assumptions based on what I see. And that is something that I'm not proud of. It's something that I really need to fix. And you see something and you make a judgment on it and why am I judging like that? Why am I assuming that this is true and stuff? And so I've been really, really, really thinking of ways, okay, how can I combat this? How can I really work on this and train myself to see from my heart and not from my eyes? So my eyes connected to my brain. You're making so many judgments and stuff with your brain instead of with your heart. But I've been learning a lot lately that the heart does not make judgments. The heart speaks truth, basically. If you really want to make a decision, you don't want to listen to your brain, you want to listen to your heart. Because your brain is going to make up so many excuses, so many assumptions, like, oh, you can't do that, blah, blah, blah. But if you listen to your heart, it just speaks the truth. It speaks what you truly desire in that moment. And so I'm wanting to challenge myself, and therefore challenging you guys to really try to change the way that you're seeing things. But yeah, as I was listening and thinking about this, I'm like, okay, how do I reconnect my wiring, so to speak? How can I start seeing from my heart instead of seeing primarily from my eyes? And I was remembering a Bible passage that I'm sure many of you have read or have heard about, and what it's mentioned many times in the gospel. It's something that Jesus says, and it's mentioned many times in the different gospels, but the first time that it's mentioned is in Matthew. And so I'm in Matthew chapter 5, verse 29. And this is in a section where he's talking about adultery, but this truth can be applied to anywhere where there is a sin. And as Christians, we're called not to judge. And that is something that Christians, we feel terribly at here in this modern world. we are basically hypocrites. We're, taught that we're not supposed to judge yet. We're judging. It's something that I'm really frustrated about. But it's all something that we have to work on our own. But yes, so all sin is the same. And Jesus is basically saying here in verse 29, chapter 5, if your right eye causes you to stumble, gouge it out and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to be thrown into hell. There's other examples where he talks about cutting off a hand or cutting off a foot if it's causing you to stumble. I'm not here to say, oh, we need to gouge out our eyes. That's a bit extreme. And I'm sure Jesus was not saying, oh, you should just gouge out your eyes, blah, blah, blah. I think he was using it as an example of, we really need to think about this. We really need to stop trusting our eyes so much, or trusting whatever body part. But in this video, we're talking about eyes. We need to stop trusting our eyes so much when we make decisions. And this goes for everything, whether we're judging people or judging circumstances, whether we're trying to trust God in a situation, but all we see is the fear. All we see is the other circumstances. Like in the Old Testament, you see all these circumstances when God brings his people out of Egypt. And they're like seeing, oh my goodness, we have no food. Oh, we have no water. They're seeing with their eyes because they're in the middle of the wilderness. They're in the middle of the wilderness and there's no food or water in sight. They're trusting their eyes instead of trusting their heart, which is connected to God, which should be connected to God. And I know some of you may not be a Christian or have a different belief system, but I feel like this truth transcends any type of religion. It's something that I'm sure other religions talk about as well. I'm just giving biblical examples because that is what my faith is. So yeah, Jesus in that chapter is basically saying, like, you shouldn't trust your eyes. And if your eyes are causing you to stumble in whatever way, you should just stop relying. Stop relying on them. So yeah, I'm not saying that we should all go gouge out our eyes because that's problematic. But I feel like we need to do some things or try some exercises, do some practices to try to rewire ourselves, and so to speak. So I was thinking about this. I'm like, okay, what can I do to try to do this? And I basically thought of the idea of just shutting your eyes. If you're in a circumstance, especially if you're safe, obviously, if you're in a safe circumstance and you find yourself making hasty judgments based on what you're seeing, not basically what you're hearing or what, is the actual truth. And so if you're in a situation like that, I'm going to do this myself. I'm just going to close my eyes and be like, are the judgments or the feelings that I have right now based on what I'm seeing? And so when you're shutting your eyes, you have to rely on every other sense you have. And so if there's a person talking, you have to listen to them instead of looking at them, And, this can go for food too, you can, if you look at an item and you don't like it, think that you don't like it, just close your eyes and just eat it. And just focus on the smell of it, the taste of it, and everything. So, close your eyes and just stop relying on your visual sense and see if the judgments you've made stand true. Sometimes they will. I have a feeling that most of the time they won't. And that is just the challenge and the idea that I'm going to try to implement myself. Because it's definitely something that I have a hard time with. One example is I have a hard time enjoying the music at my church because I always make these hasty judgments based on what the musicians look like, based on what the lighting is, even based on how well they're playing the instruments. I'm a music major here, and majoring in music made me a huge snob, and it's kind of frustrating that I can't really enjoy music for what it is. And so that's one thing that I'm going to really try to practice, is that when I go to church and I want to join the music, I'm just going to shut my eyes and stop making judgments based on what I see and just enjoy it. And so, yeah, that is one aspect I know that I'm going to work on. That's for sure. And I feel like just doing that simple practice of closing your eyes when you're able to. Don't do it while driving. Don't do it when you absolutely need to see where you're going. But just take a second and just reconnect and close your eyes and just say, do those judgments or something stand true with my eyes shut? And I feel like that will help us practice us speaking from the heart. Seeing from the heart instead of seeing from our eyes. And so basically we want to see in love. We want to see truth. We don't want to see through judgments, assumptions, falsehoods, everything. Because we've been conditioned with our eyes to believe all sorts of nonsense based on what we see. And so, yeah, I feel like that's what I want to say today. I hope it's coherent enough. I do these videos, these insight videos, to help me practice my intuition, practice my speaking truth based on what God has given me. And so I'm doing this as a practice. So if I'm a little rough, I'm just practicing. I'm not just practicing, I'm practicing, trying to make it more coherent and stuff. So I hope that made sense. And yeah, I really challenge you to do that exercise and see what happens. See if you can rewire what you're seeing, and then maybe you can go about your day without making these hasty judgments, these hasty assumptions, and see what happens to your life. See what happens. I'm excited to see what changes, what things I feel like I will be able to do because I'm not seeing through my eyes, I'm seeing through my heart. So yeah, but that is it that I have for you today. I hope that this spoke to you, and I do hope that you can see some changes based on this quick little exercise and stuff. So yeah, well, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye everybody.